bringing you the news and information you need from the people making a difference. This is Comcast Newsmakers.
And welcome back to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Steve Swat. My guest this segment is Ted Lieu, a member of the State Assembly from Southern California, the Torrance area. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about foreclosure legislation and mortgage reform. And let me start off first by talking about foreclosure legislation. I think under the radar in the last big budget package that finally was solved was some foreclosure legislation to ease some of the homeowners' burdens there. Talk a little bit about that first of all.
Sure. The governor signed the California Foreclosure Prevention Act. It's a bill I authored, AB 7, in the second extraordinary session. Mm-hmm. It's similar to the bill that I introduced last November. And there's nothing like this bill in the nation. It basically gives lenders two choices. It says you can have a comprehensive loan modification program to help keep people in their homes, or if you choose not to do that, you'll be faced with a 90-day foreclosure moratorium on all your loans. So the goal of this bill is to compel loan modifications.
And there's no doubt, I mean, if you just look at the Central Valley, I mean, Sacramento, Merced, Modesto, Stockton, I mean, all these areas are among the national leaders, I guess you could say, in terms of foreclosures.
Oh, absolutely. 6 of the top 10 metro areas in terms of foreclosures are in California. And if you look at statewide statistics, in January we had 76,761 foreclosures. Mm-hmm. That's about one foreclosure filing every 36 seconds. So until we slow that down, we're never going to start our economic recovery.
So you're trying to get the lenders to voluntarily take some action, but if not, then you've got the hammer.
That's correct. And the great thing about the bill is no taxpayer money are used. Mm-hmm. It's actually lender money. Instead of us giving all this money to Wall Street, finally we're asking Wall Street to do a little bit to help the homeowners.
Talk about mortgage reform, because I know you also have legislation in that regard which hasn't been heard yet, which will be now that the budget process is over.
Yes, that's Assembly Bill 2 in the second extraordinary session. And the governor called this session because of the criticality of making sure that we reform the mortgage system so this doesn't happen again. And if you look at our economic collapse, it really started because of the rising wave of home foreclosures caused by shady lending practices, unregulated lending practices. Mm-hmm. What this bill does is it puts restrictions and bans on some of the worst practices in the subprime industry. So for example, one of them is called steering. And what would happen is mortgage brokers would put a consumer in a higher interest rate, riskier loan, even though they had qualified for a lower rate traditional loan. We banned that practice.
The governor saw similar legislation, perhaps identical legislation, in the last session and vetoed it. And in his veto message, he said, among other things, there are unintended consequences. And one of the things he talked about is that, first of all, the feds and the states, the state have been doing a lot lately, and so a lot of the provisions are not necessary. And he also said that you're now going to have an industry that is regulated in California but that won't be regulated elsewhere, and so there's that sort of unevenness. How do you respond to that?
Sure. So he vetoed my bill, AB 1830, from last year, and then within about 2 months he essentially reversed himself and called a special session just on mortgage reform. He then put out his own proposal, which is about 2/3 of my bill, which I'm very happy with.
And he did laud, I think, the general thrust of your legislation. He just thought it overreached, in his words. Yeah.
Correct. And so we're working with the administration on crafting a bill that he will sign. But I think he also realized that because of the scale of the problem, people understand that we need to put some regulations on the lending practices of these institutions. And just because a federal institution can do bad things doesn't mean we need to allow a state institution to go and do the same bad things.
We only have a few seconds left, but are you confident that, should you get the bill out again, that you'll get a signature from the governor this time?
I am, because he called a special session just on this subject.
Right. Well, thank you very much for coming by and talking about this critical issue. We've been talking to Assemblyman Ted Lieu of Southern California. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to our viewers for watching Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Steve Swat. We'll see you next time.